Okay. Have you ever wondered if God has favorites?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the only one, but I'm captivated by the idea of being the favorite. In most of my relationships, I strive to be the favorite. This is true with my teachers, friends, siblings, and even my parents. Typically, I try to go above and beyond to prove that I'm worthy, so I can show people why I should be their favorite. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that I really see favoritism as equivalent to being loved. In my mind, if I am someone's favorite, that must mean that they really love me. However, this mindset, this striving for love is so tiring, especially when it's brought to your relationship with God. But I believe that God knew that striving would be an issue for us as humans, and he addresses it right here in Romans 8:14-17. It states, "The mature children of God are those who are moved by the impulses of the Holy Spirit. And you did not receive the spirit of religious duty, leading you back into the fear of never being good enough. But you have received the spirit of full acceptance, enfolding you into the family of God. And you will never feel orphaned, for as he rises up within us, our spirits join him in saying the words of tender affection, 'Beloved Father.' For the Holy Spirit makes God's fatherhood real to us as he whispers into our innermost being, 'You are God's beloved child.' And since we are his true children, we qualify to share all his treasures, for indeed we are heirs of God himself. And since we are joined to Christ, we also inherit all that he is and all that he has. We will experience being co-glorified with him, provided that we accept his suffering as our own." Now, this passage has a lot of good things to say, but if I was to sum it up in one sentence, it would be that we are born into a state of slavery, but now as co-heirs with Christ, we can live with an adoptive attitude. My first point is we are born into slavery. When we're born, we are constantly trying to earn favor, to prove our worth. We're constantly striving. This is our original state. This verse describes it as the spirit of religious duty and a fear of never being good enough. Not only is this something that we think before we are saved, but sometimes, if we're not careful, this type of thinking can weave its way into our churches. This is how legalistic people think, and even sometimes baby Christians who don't know better. But it is not true. And the best news is that we no longer have to live by this mindset of trying to earn love. Which brings me to my second point. We are now adopted. When we decide to commit our lives to Christ, we are adopted into the family of God. This passage describes us as being beloved children. If you look up some synonyms for beloved, they are cherished, darling, dear, and favored. And this passage also describes it as a state of full acceptance. When I started thinking about this phrase, it reminded me of a story I had from growing up. You see, my sister, growing up, her best friend was actually adopted from China. And this girl was lovely and her family was awesome. And she had an older brother who was biologically her parents' child. And I heard this phrase thrown around often that, oh yeah, Tucker is biologically their kid and Ellie's adopted. And while people didn't mean anything by it, it created this divide between the true child and the adopted kid. But that's not how it is in the kingdom. We are now all God's true children. And my third point is we are now co-heirs with Christ. As co-heirs, we inherit all that he has and all that he is. The definition of an heir is a person inheriting and continuing the legacy of a predecessor. That is our job now. As children of God, we carry on the legacy of Jesus Christ. However, this doesn't come without a cost. The passage goes on to say that provided that we suffer with him. And the cost is guaranteed suffering. But it is ultimately so worth it as we are now children of a perfect Father. So finally, my challenge to you would be to choose to have an adoptive mindset. Adoption is a beautiful gift. You don't have to continue striving because the gift is yours. However, when we are given gifts, We get to choose whether we will open it and use it. Don't let the gift of adoption sit in your room collecting dust. The way I see it, you can either choose slavery or acceptance. And I know which one I would prefer. So my challenge would be to choose to live as an adopted child and don't just let this gift sit idly. Thank you.